Santa Catarina is a state in southern Brazil. According to the Index of Economic Well-Being calculated between 2002 and 2008, Santa Catarina was the Brazilian state that revealed the highest economic well-being in relation to the others. Its capital is Florianópolis, which mostly lies on the Santa Catarina island, while Joinville is Santa Catarina's largest city. Neighboring states are Rio Grande do Sul to the south and Paraná to the north. It is bounded on the east by the Atlantic Ocean, and to the west it borders the province of Misiones, Argentina. The beaches along the coast of Santa Catarina are a great attraction for tourists visiting the smallest state of the south region. Florianópolis, the capital, is one of the Brazilian cities with the highest HDI and that receives the most foreign tourists, especially from Europe and Argentina. The mountain ridge region, especially São Joaquim and Urupema, becomes an attraction during winter due to its low temperatures and snow. People of German and Austrian descent make up the largest ethnic group among the population of Santa Catarina, at around 45%, with a considerable portion still speaking the German language. Blumenau, in the interior of Santa Catarina, is the stage for one of the biggest events of the southern region of the country, which possess a strong direct influence of German culture. The Oktoberfest of Blumenau, a traditional beer party festival originated from Germany, that is held in October. Santa Catarina was one of the few states in Brazil that actually were mostly populated by a settlement program, with colonists coming from almost every European nation. Their heritage can be seen in the architecture and the customs of the population of the state. It is the Brazilian state with the highest levels of income, education and public health, and one of the lowest rates of illiteracy. Santa Catarina boasts Brazil's highest average life expectancy and lowest homicide rate, in addition to lower levels of corruption. The cities of the state are also considered some the most livable in the country, enjoying a reputation of being clean, safe and organized. Geography. Santa Catarina is in a very strategic position in Mercosul, the South American Common Market. Its position in the map is situated between the parallel 25th 57 feet 41 inches and 29th 23 feet 55 inches of the southern latitude, and between the meridians 48th 19 feet 37 inches and 53rd 50.00 of western longitude. Florianópolis, its capital, is 1,673 kilometers from Brasilia, 705 kilometers from São Paulo, 1,144 kilometers from Rio de Janeiro and 1,850 kilometers from Buenos Aires. The Serra Geral, a southern extension of the Serra do Mar, runs north and south through the state parallel to the Atlantic coast, dividing the state between a narrow coastal plain and a larger plateau region to the west. The Atlantic coast of Santa Catarina has many beaches, islands, bays, inlets, and lagoons. The humid tropical Serra do Mar coastal forests cover the narrow coastal zone, which is crossed by numerous short streams from the wooded slopes of the Serras. The central part of the state is home to the arid area moist forests, dominated by emergent Brazilian pines. The drainage of the plateau is westward to the Paraná River, the rivers being tributaries of the Iguaçu, which forms its northern boundary, and of the Uruguay River, which forms its southern boundary. The semi-deciduous Paraná-Paraíba interior forests occupy the westernmost valleys of the Iguaçu and Uruguay rivers. The highest point of the state is the Morro da Boa Vista, with an altitude of 1,827 meters, and the second highest point is the Morro da Igreja, in the town of Urubici, with an altitude of 1,822 meters. History. European settlement began with the Spanish settlement of Santa Catarina Island in 1542. Between early 19th century and mid-20th century, a great number of European immigrants arrived to Santa Catarina. These immigrants were taken in order to populate the south of the nation by imperial initiative. About 50% of these immigrants were from Germany and Austria. The rest came mainly from Italy, Poland, Russia, Ukraine, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Lithuania, France, Finland, Croatia, Serbia, Estonia, Slovenia and Latvia. These immigrants created an abundance of small, family-held farms, many of which continue to exist in the interior of the state. Late in March 2004, the state was hit by the first hurricane ever recorded in the South Atlantic. Because there is no naming system for such an event in Brazil, Brazilian meteorologists called it Cyclone Catarina, after the state. Demographics. According to the IBGE of 2008, there were 6,091,000 people residing in the state. The population density was 61.53 inhabitants per square kilometer. Urbanization. 83%. Population growth. 2%. Houses. 1,836,000. The last PNAD census revealed the following numbers. 5,297,000 white people, 608,000 brown people, 160,000 black people, 15,000 Asian people, 5,000 Amerindian people. People of Portuguese ancestry, mostly Azorians, predominate on the coast. People of German descent predominate in the northeast region and in the north. There are many German communities in the west. People of Italian descent predominate in the south, as well in many areas in the west. People of African, Amerindian or Japanese origin are present in small communities in a few towns. According to a genetics study from 2013, the population of Santa Catarina is made up by 79.7% European, 11.4% African and 8.9% Amerindian ancestry groups. A genetics study found out an isolated Azorian Brazilian community from Santa Catarina to have between 86% to 93.5% European input, along with 12.6% to 6.8% African and 4.1% to 2.4% Native American ancestries. European settlement. Santa Catarina is one of the Brazilian states that exhibits the most signs of 19th-century European immigration. The vast majority of the population are descendants of European settlers. Portuguese. The Portuguese started arriving in the 1750s, mainly from the Azores Islands, and colonized the coast. In the late 18th century, half of Santa Catarina's population was Portuguese-born. These Portuguese established many important towns in the state, such as Florianopolis, the capital. Germans and Austrians. German people started arriving in 1828. These were peasants attracted by the opportunity to have their own land, as Germanic countries were overpopulated and many people had no land to work. German immigration was very low until the 1850s, when waves started arriving in southern Brazil. To stimulate the German colonization of southern Brazil, the Brazilian government created many German colonies. These were ethnically Germanic areas where people from many parts of what is now Germany and Austria settled. Initially, these colonies were in rural areas, where immigrants were able to cultivate their own farms. Many of these German colonies developed greatly and became large towns, Blumenau and Joinville, the largest city in Santa Catarina, among them. Germans were isolated in rural communities for decades. They did not have much contact with the other peoples of Brazil, and for generations they were able to speak the German language and maintain German traditions in Brazil. This situation changed in 1942, during World War II, when Brazil declared war on Germany, and German immigrants and their descendants were required to learn Portuguese and to culturally integrate their respective states. Still, German influence in the state remains very strong and visible. Many towns and cities retain notable aspects of German culture. In Pomerode, for example, a small town in which 9/10 of the population is of German Brazilian descent, Most inhabitants still speak German fluently, and Oktoberfest continues to be celebrated in Blumenau and in many other towns in the region. Architecture, too, shows German influence, as do popular customs and local cuisine. People of German and Austrian descent make up the largest ethnic group among the population of Santa Catarina, at around 45%. Italian settlers started arriving in Santa Catarina in 1875 and immigrated in large numbers until the 1910s. They were peasants from northern Italy and established themselves in ethnically Italian colonies close to the coast. In the beginning, Italian settlements failed, because many Italians died of tropical diseases or left the colonies to find better conditions. However, in the Valle di Tubarão region, Italian immigrants found cooler weather and better lands, and the settlements prospered. Many Italians worked in the coal industry and, unlike the German immigrants, they did not dedicate themselves very much to agriculture, as they were not isolated in rural colonies. Italian immigrants were quickly integrated into the Brazilian population of Portuguese descent that had been living in Brazil since the 18th century. Economy. The industrial sector is the largest component of GDP at 52.5%, followed by the service sector at 33.9%. Agriculture represents 13.6% of GDP. Santa Catarina exports aviculture 26.1%, wood products 15.4%, compressors 8.5%, cotton 6.8%, and vehicles 5.8%. Share of the Brazilian economy, 4%. Santa Catarina has one of the highest standards of living in Brazil, and is a major industrial and agricultural center. The capital city, Florianópolis, has a diversified economy, being an important pole for the technology industry and a major touristic destination. Commerce and services are also very strong in the capital. Cities from Florianópolis metro area, like São José, Palhoça and Biguaçu, are important and diverse industrial poles, as well as strong commerce areas. In the northeast of the state, electric, mechanical, textile and furniture industries are strong. In the west, cattle and poultry breeding predominate, while in the south it is ceramics and shellfish. The corridor between Joinville, Jaraguá do Sul and Blumenau is heavily industrialized. More than 50% of the state's industrial output is concentrated in this small, but highly developed area. Santa Catarina has some of the most beautiful beaches in Brazil. Summer months make the state one of the most sought-after travel destinations in Brazil and South America. Tens of thousands of Argentines, Uruguayans and Paraguayans flock to the state's beaches from mid-December to late January, followed by Western European tourists. The major cities and their respective fields are Florianópolis, technology, tourism, services, commerce, government, education; Joinville, metal mechanic, tourism, events, software development, commerce, plastic, textile, chemist; Blumenau, textile, software, commerce and beer; São José, industry, commerce and services; Criciúma, ceramics; Chapeco, cattle and poultry breeding; Lajes, tourism and wood industry; Atagé, seaport; Jaraguá do Sul, electric motors and textile; Palhoça, industry; Balneário Camboriú, tourism, commerce; Tubarão, Brusque, textile; Rio Negrinho, furniture; Caçador, furniture, metal mechanics, agri-business. See also agriculture in Santa Catarina. Statistics. Vehicles: 2,489,343, mobile phones, 3.7 million, telephones, 1.6 million, cities, 293. Education. Portuguese is the official national language, and thus the primary language taught in schools. English, Spanish and sometimes German are part of the official high school curriculum. There are more than 105 universities within the state of Santa Catarina. Colleges and universities: Universidade Federal de Santa Catarina, Universidade Federal da Fronteira Sul, Universidade do Estado de Santa Catarina, Instituto Federal de Santa Catarina, Instituto Federal Catarinense, Fundação Universidade Regional de Blumenau, Universidade do Sul de Santa Catarina, Universidade do Vale do Itajaí, Universidade da Região de Joinville, Universidade para o Desenvolvimento do Alto Vale do Itajaí, Centro Universitário Leonardo da Vinci, Universidade Católica de Santa Catarina, Universidade do Contestador, Universidade do Oeste de Santa Catarina, Universidade do Planalto de Santa Catarina, Universidade do Extremo Sul Catarinense, Sociedade Educacional de Santa Catarina. Infrastructure. International Airport: Florianópolis is served by Hercílio Luz International Airport for both domestic and international flights. The traffic has grown significantly at the airport and therefore the city will shortly build a new airport able to serve 2.7 million passengers a year. The architectural design of the new airport was chosen by a public competition held by Infraero in partnership with the Brazilian Architects Institute. Among the over 150 original entries, the proposal of São Paulo architect Mario Bizzoli was chosen. The construction work will be tendered in 2005 and should be finished in 2 years. Tourism. Santa Catarina offers a number of sites and events throughout the year. Rural tourism, thermal mineral resorts, ecological tourism and adventure sports, historic monuments and sites, religious tourism, Beto Carreiro World and Uniprios parks in Balneario Camboriú, and beach resorts of Florianópolis, Laguna, Portobello and Itajaí. Some of these sites can only be seen in the off-season, like the snow on the Catarinense mountain range, one of the places in Brazil where it snows every year. Between July and November, the right whales visit the state's coast, and during the winter, flocks of penguins migrate from Antarctica. The municipality of Timbo is a center for adventure sports like rafting and canyoning. The great festivities take place in October. The main Oktoberfest of Blumenau is Brazil's largest and the world's second largest. Joinville is the host city in July to the widely acclaimed Joinville Dance Festival, the annual Festival of Flowers, in November, which showcases orchids produced in the region, and several business events in its convention center. Florianópolis, the city, island state capital, attracts a large numbers of tourists during the summer months who visit its 42 beaches. Sports. Football. The major football clubs of Santa Catarina are Criciúma EC from Criciúma. Criciúma EC, also known as Tigre, has the most important championship won by a Santa Catarina team in a very long time, being champion from the Copa do Brasil in 1991. Criciúma is the only team from Santa Catarina that played Libertadores of America Cup in 1992, when it was fifth. Criciúma also won the Brazilian 2002 Second Series and 2006 C Series. Criciúma is currently playing Campeonato Brasileiro Série A, the Brazilian national first division. Figueirense FC, black and white from Florianópolis. Its nickname is Figueira and it is also known as O Furação do Estreito. Its stadium is the Orlando Scarpelli, located in the Estreito neighborhood, in the continental part of the city. Figueirense is currently playing in the Campeonato Brasileiro Série A, the first division of Brazilian football. AVFC, blue and white from Florianópolis. It is also known as Olho da Ilha. Its stadium is the Adebol Ramos da Silva, popularly known as Ressacada, located in the Carianos neighborhood, in the south part of the island. Ave is currently playing in Campeonato Brasileiro Série A, the first division of Brazilian football. Joinville Esporte Clube from Joinville. It is also known as Tricolor or JEC. Joinville is currently playing in the Campeonato Brasileiro Série A, the first division of Brazilian football. JEC won the Campeonato Brasileiro Série B, the second division of Brazilian football, in 2014, and thus currently plays in Campeonato Brasileiro Série A, the first division of Brazilian football. Associação Chapecoense de Futebol from Chapeco. Chapecoense is playing in the Campeonato Brasileiro Série A, the first and major division of Brazilian football. Tennis. Florianópolis is the hometown of tennis star Gustavo Coutinho. Surfing. The island of Santa Catarina, is generally considered to have the best and most consistent waves in Brazil, and in April of each year hosts what is currently South America's only ASP World Championship Tour professional surfing competition. Brazil has played host to many an ASP Tour event over the past 30 years. Former contest sites include Rio de Janeiro, Barra de Tijuca and Saquarema, but the past 4 years have seen the tour set up shop in Florianópolis. Previously held towards the end of the tour, the past few years have seen several ASP World Champions crowned in Brazil. In 2004 it was Andy Irons, and in 2005 it was Kelly Slater. Minority languages. The minority languages of the state of Santa Catarina can be divided into two distinct groups: autochtone languages or indigenous languages, Kaingang, Guarani; extoctone languages or immigration languages, German, Italian, Slavic and others, including Dutch, Scandinavian, Lithuanian, Yiddish, English and Japanese minorities. In some cities and villages, German or Italian are still the main spoken language and enjoy co-official status.